While many of us were celebrating the joyous festivities that December brings and dismissing the thought of having to go back to school, on December 28th, Syrian refugees were making their way to a new start in the city of Vancouver. Suzanne, a woman who has helped place Syrian refugees in temporary housing since their arrival to Vancouver, speaks about her experiences.
The way I look at it, I very much identify with the fact that I'm an immigrant. And I've been in Canada for 35 years. And I identify myself as a Canadian. But when I look at immigrants versus refugees, the only difference is immigrants had a choice and refugees don't. They're literally running for their lives. We have so much space and we have so much wealth. I mean, we are one of the most underpopulated countries in the world. And we have so much opportunity. And the fact is that we're a very accepting country. And, I think we have a moral obligation to do what we can to help. There was a big understanding gap that I had to communicate to my environment. What it was there was concern that refugees were homeless. And there had to be communication with, okay, just because they don't have a home doesn't mean they're homeless. They're not, because there's a very negative stereotype about homeless people living on the streets. So I had to communicate, well, as far as we know, they're people like you and me who have been driven out of their homes by political situations, and they've literally had to leave everything they've left, everything they know in the world behind in order to save their lives. We had a conversation with our team, and so we were having we have a daily team meeting, and so one of the first things we said was, when you interact, obviously the Syrians are dressed very differently, so they're very easily identifiable. And so we say, if you run into one and you want to say hello, all you need to do is say marhaba. It's a very easy word, and it creates a connection. It makes them feel welcome, less alienated, and you get to make a connection with them.
3 months later, Syrians are facing the realities of what this new life in Canada might bring. Although many refugees have been put up in hotels as they wait for their paperwork to be processed, the struggle to find affordable housing has been a topic that is still on the rise. We met students at UBC who have been actively involved in the Syrian refugee situation to hear what they had to say.
Hi, my name is Dina Shireen Shoti. I moved from Egypt, which is my home country.
I'm Joyce Smallenberg. I'm a third-year student in sociology and French, and I've been living in the greater Vancouver area for 21 years, my whole life.
So I'm Katrina. I'm a first year's master's student in the Department of Geography.
This September, I was just really feeling like there is an unmet need on campus in terms of students responding to this crisis, and just scrolling through my Facebook newsfeed and seeing Humans of New York stories of parents crying because they saw their child drown beside them, or it just was really burdening my heart. And I just thought there must be something that we can do as students uniting together. So I went to Dan Hayberg's lecture on the Syrian refugee crisis, and that's where I met Katrina, who's really passionate about private sponsorship. So we combined my vision for a student movement with her idea about private sponsorship, and that's how UBC Refugee Relief came about.
I think a big thing was just wanting to do something about the Syrian refugee crisis. I'd already for a few years been watching films and being informed about the crisis, and just seeing it evolve and getting kind of worse and worse, and just really wanted to do something concrete rather than just reading really negative news stories all the time.
So right now we're helping sponsor a Syrian refugee family. The same kind of events happened in Egypt. I just thought like the same events might have occurred to me and like happened to me. I would be a refugee myself, and I would love if people would like accept me and help me in their country. So I think that really moved me.
With the change in government, we're letting a lot more refugees into the country, which is very exciting, from about 2,500 to 25,000. And I have friends who are working in Greece and in Turkey right now with the refugees firsthand, and they say that the situation is changing every single day, that it's dire, and there's a lot of help needed.
But we don't want to stop there. We want to do more. We want to help other families, other refugees of all nationalities. I just hope that we reach more people. I know a lot of people want to help in this, so the first step is always hard, right? Like I always wanted to help like since the whole thing started, but I never actually got that push until I met Katrina and some of the other girls. So I hope that we reach more people who are likely motivated, and maybe we get more people in here, get more refugees.
We met with a UBC student who has also taken action and tells us from personal experience what it's like to come to a new country as a refugee. And finally, we asked the UBC students what their hopes are and how one can get involved.
Well, my name's Javier. I started the Syrian Refugee project. Economically, it's actually good for us to bring in more people. It will not only bring in new skills, but it's gonna provide growth for the future, especially under the deficit that Trudeau government's running. This isn't really our land to claim. It's like First Nations land, you know. It's borrowed land, right? And we need to recognize that before we skip to the aspect of multiculturalism. It's good to have diversity, but you need to recognize why we have this diversity. It's a result of colonialism. If I were to tell them something, expect to wait a lot. Canada, or the West Coast especially, we're very saturated right now. There's a lot of people coming in. Not to mention it's expensive, and what the government gives us, or not us, gives the refugees right now is not enough. I believe it's 700 something per month once they're here, for housing, for food, for everything. In regards to changes that should be made, I think definitely low-income housing needs to be built, not only in Vancouver, but all throughout Canada. You know, we need these things to exist in order to encourage, you know, not only immigration, but to help us help others as a country, you know. Now we are in the process of planning a community dinner. You know, we're inviting Syrian refugees, we're inviting UBC community members, just not to appropriate. We took careful steps not to appropriate the Syrian culture. It's to celebrate it, to appreciate where refugees are coming from, Syrian refugees are coming from, and just, you know, show them that they're welcome here and they're not to be marginalized here once they're here.
So during the process, one of the primary challenges was the translation process for the private sponsorship application. The application took several months, hundreds and hundreds of pages that needed to be translated from Arabic into English, and then going through the diocese of the church to the federal government. So it's a multi-step process, and it just made me realize how difficult it would be if you're a refugee to be sponsored, and you can't just leave. There's so many steps. And so the translation is one big challenge in the sponsorship process. What I hope to come out of it is a new perspective in everyone's heart, that everyone is a brother and sister in this world. There's no difference. It's not us and them. If that was my father or my son or my mother or my spouse, I would want to help them, and I know that they would do the same for me. So that is what I hope people will really learn, that that's dire, that's important, and that's centered to our humanity, is just loving others.
In the last 3 months, we've only scratched the surface of the challenges and opportunities that Syrians have faced and will continue to face. But as Canadians who have opened our doors, we must continue what we started and empower all refugees seeking the sunny days to come that we are all entitled to.